Why do we kill? Why do people kill? Why do humans kill? Now, killing has always been a thing. Ever since, you know, uh, Eve disobeyed God and ate the apple, evil arrived in the world, and unfortunately, evil was inevitable now. So it's no surprise, and it's unfortunate that it's part of human nature. Sad, because I drew to this conclusion because if something happens so frequently, I think it's fair to say that that said thing is part of human nature. It's like breathing. Everyone breathes. So it's right to count that as part of human nature. Everyone walks, and I'm well aware there's some exceptions to the rule where they're unfortunate to not have a pair of legs to walk, and God bless those people. But in a general sense, most people have legs to walk, and it's fair to say they have. Walking is part of human nature because it's commonly done. Same with speaking, you watching, being inspired by someone, seeking guidance from just anyone, it doesn't even have to be me. It's fair to class that as part of human nature, to which it is. Now, I want to quickly make this video very quick. The perspectives on, why a person may decide to kill one another. I want to speak from a psychological standpoint. I'm not saying there's shit on it. Let's go back with a psychological standpoint and a spiritual standpoint. So psychologists, I would imagine, and I'm just going through my take. I'm just going through saying what I would think most psychologists would say as to why I believe someone would feel okay to kill. But from a psychological standpoint, they may see it as, a heavy God complex. I know it's counterintuitive because I said psychological then spiritual standpoint, so I should have put the God aspect with the spiritual aspect, so which I will. We'll get to that. But from the psychological standpoint, they see themselves having a God complex, and they're fueled with a lot of pent-up trauma and hatred, to which they've kept in, and they never felt the need to express it to anyone else, or more so they felt that they couldn't. They felt worthless. They felt like they weren't worth anything in the world, that they were convinced that they were born here for the wrong reasons. They would think, since they have this heavy desire in them, that they should desire to kill. And I'm sure everyone has, the negative thoughts that arise in our lives, but some people genuinely feel in their heart that it's their purpose to be put in this world to do those heinous acts. And I believe they would think this because the constant, consecutive just flood of those thoughts coming into their mind. Now, I'm sure everyone has, may have those thoughts of sometimes in the past, but it's not to act like it. From a mature standpoint, if someone is actually walking sane, you see that as an opportunity of self-control. But not everyone is like that, unfortunately, and it really does suck to say. And it's hard to build empathy for these people. I can only speak what I would assume it's to be like from their perspective. But I can never empathize with those type of people, truly, because I'm not fully like them. I may have the thoughts of it, but I'll never act on it because I know who I am as a person. I would never do that shit. And I think long-term also, the long-term punishment, all the more reason why I wouldn't do such things. Some people just really have a God complex, I think it falls down to that sometimes. It's an excess of pride, and, that pride bleeds into all of the other 7 deadly sins, or obviously with the wrath being, it's so funny how that works because all of it can fuel, all the 7 deadly sins can fuel into the killing. They all link. It's all chained up. It all causes on one another. Speaking of 7 deadly sins, I made a poem about 5 months ago. It's a really long, epic poem, very long, 26 minutes long. I made a fictional story of, someone who committed the 7 deadly sins and he's dead, and the narrator recalls on their life. Check that video out if you're curious to get a deep understanding on just those sins and why it should be avoided at all costs. But some people really just have a God complex, using weapons to, one-shot kill their opponent. And I don't even mean that in a funny way, but it just literally is true. They feel this high superiority complex. They just really prideful, and they really like the idea of everyone obeying and bending to their will. It feels like they feel like they're unstoppable and no one can stop them because of the weapon that they possess. And in a way, that's not to discredit God's efforts, because God is absolutely greater, But in this scenario of just the criminal and the people, the criminal does have the edge. He's got the weapon, and the victims would be well aware of what happens. Hence why it's in our nature, we have the fear of death in us, right? To surrender. You put your hands up in the air, because what more can you really do than surrender? And you disobeying the criminal, unfortunately, it's too much of a price to pay, so it's only natural. And they feel a superiority complex, having the ability. They feel like they're God passing judgment, which is disgusting. Spiritual standpoint, and this is more true, you know. I mean, they're both true. It's just different perspectives. They do kind of link to one another. God uses, many are called, few are chosen, right? I'm getting hit by it. It's through my nose. Many are called, few are chosen, right? And that being said, not everyone can go on God's path. You can't serve two masters. There are two masters, the God and the devil. You have to pick one. You can't serve two. You can only pick one, right? So the same way, God will use certain people like myself to spread a positive message. Warriors of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He will use us to spread a positive message. God uses people to do brilliant things and to lead and guide and just pass out wisdom and create a positive impact in the world. And the same way God does that is the same way the devil does also. The devil has his own minions who he uses to commit heinous acts. And the devil gets inside of them. They get the better of them. And it's always the people who tend to be broken-hearted who are more prone to falling into these type of things. Hence why the heinous acts, any form of crime that's willful sin, it's the devil, man. It's the devil. Like super extreme crimes like killing, murder, theft. The devil goes inside of you and tries to convince you to commit something that's out of what God likes, and hence why you can't serve two masters. So it's really good to have an open heart in God. Have an open heart. Follow your leader wisely. Follow God. Try to reduce this as least as possible. And the devil's a liar. He'll convince you that you are God. He will convince you. Now, I'm sure we have, as people, we have small characteristics of God, hence why we're able to do great things for the past 2 billion years. But, yeah, for the most part, we are not God. But the devil will trick you into thinking that you are God. And that's why people get manipulated, get used by him to fulfill the wrong deeds. And that explains the killing also. Just my take.